Have you ever wondered how much meat you can realistically expect out of a 300-pound live weight hog? A few years ago, I did a video that gave a visual demonstration and counted out the number of packages from one of our 300-pound hogs. But in retrospect, I realized it would have been better if I'd have had exact weights of the different cuts. So in this video, I want to start off with a live hog and let you watch along as we butcher it so that you can see exactly what you can expect out of a 300-pound hog. This is the live hog. It weighed right at 300 pounds. When we were trying to weigh it, the numbers kept jumping between 305 and 295 because the hog didn't want to hold very still. So I think we can safely say that this hog starts off at about 300 pounds live weight. First, the hog is humanely stunned, then it's bled out, and then it's skinned, and then it's gutted, and then finally it's split into two halves. Bled out, and now we're taking the skin off. So all this is part of the inedibles and getting down to the weight, take-home weight that you actually can eat. So here's the skinning process. Okay, so after we skin it, obviously we gut it out, and so of course that's more inedibles, and so all heading us towards our hanging weight. So this half is 107.5 with the organs on it, and this half is 104 even. This is our order form that we use to keep track of these hogs, and so once we get that hanging weight, we record it here on your order form so that we keep record of that. We keep every side identified, make sure we keep it all straight. Stick it on there. We'll stick it in the cooler over the weekend here. Okay, here it hangs. We're trying to keep enough airflow, enough space in here to have airflow so it can chill down quickly. And it'll get nice and firm over the weekend so that when we get ready to cut it up, the meat that was floppy will be nice and firm and easy to cut. See you next week. All right, it's about a week later. It's Thursday morning. We've had this hog in here aging about a week actually, just a hair over a week. So we're going to pull it out of the cooler here this morning, and we're going to go ahead and cut it up and put it in a silhouette and let you see kind of how all the different cuts look and how many different cuts there are. And we're going to do one half one way and the other half another way. Okay, you can see the surface is dried off and the meat has really firmed up from what it was when we put it in the cooler a week ago. So when this hot carcass weight was 104. So after being in a cooler a week, let's see what it weighs. All right, it's at 99.5 pounds now. All right, last week this half with the organ meats weighed 107.5, and we'll see what it weighs today. 103.2. 103.2 after aging in the cooler for a week. Okay, so we've got both halves of this hog out here on the table with a silhouette around it. So now we're going to go ahead and do the cuts on it and then stick them back in the silhouette. At this point, we're going to hang both halves back up on the rail so that we can cut them apart in our normal fashion. We're ready to start taking these things apart. We got our silhouette here. We're going to start taking these things apart. Okay, here's our leaf fat.
This has to get deboned.
Okay, first thing is removing the jowl here. A lot of times the jowl is done up into jowl bacon. And then we'll take the shoulder piece here, remove this part of the rib cage from it. Get the ribs removed, rib and neck bone removed from the shoulder. So in this half of the hog, we're going to slice this shoulder up into shoulder steaks. We typically go like a 3/8 inch. You can see the bone structure has changed from a kind of a longer bone to a more bigger rounded bone as the bone structure changes in the shoulders. Okay, so this is the rest of the shoulder here, and this is all going into sausage, but we're going to show you how we would do it if the person had ordered hocks. So the hocks is, we'd usually do a little trimming there to get more meat for the sausage, and then the rest of it we'll just kind of cut into sections. In my other video I made, I got a lot of comments about why there were 6 hocks. So the fact is that we take this and cut it down to different sizes and package it. So you may have a 6, 7, or even 8 packages out of a hog if you get your hocks. So in the case of a person getting hocks, we usually cut them down into smaller size pieces. So this is what you would get if you were getting bone-in hocks, but in this case, we're going to go ahead and debone these and grind them into sausage. Okay, now we're going to take the middle section out of this hog here and do our pork chops, ribs, and pork belly. This is the pork belly with the ribs on. We're going to need to pull these ribs off. Meanwhile, we're going to get these pork chops ready. A lot of times people go with like a 1/2 inch on the pork chops, but you can get them thicker if you prefer. Bone-in pork chops. Now we're transitioning from the rib chops towards the loin chops, but we don't label them separately. We just call them all pork chops. And this is just the rest that will be deboned and put into sausage. Okay, here's this pork belly. We're going to pull the spare ribs out of it. All right, here's the spare ribs. This is a whole rack of ribs, and typically people get them done as a 1/2 rack. And there we have our 1/2 rack of ribs. All right, talk to us about this pork belly. Do we need to do any trimming on it?
We'll trim it up just a little bit.
So there's our pork belly, trimmed up and ready to slice. Actually, before we slice this pork belly into bacon, we'll go ahead and stick it in the freezer and temper it so that it's nice and firm for slicing. Okay, so what we've got left from this half of the hog is the ham. This is a green ham, and we're going to go ahead and slice it for sliced and cured ham. Take the top part off, which will be deboned, and put into the sausage. And then now we get down to the goodies for slicing to do as cured ham. And so what we've got left is our ham hock. And again, we would trim that down if we were doing hocks, but in this case, we're going to debone it and put it into the sausage. All right, so this is that neck and rib area that we saw earlier. We're going to go ahead and take some of the ribs out of here. So there's another part of our spare ribs there. And this will be deboned. First half of the hog cut up, and we're going to start on the second half. Here we go. It's going to be much the same process, but on this shoulder we're going to take roast out of it. After we take the jaw bacon off and debone it. Okay, we've got the shoulder trimmed up. We're ready to make some shoulder roast. All right, trimming that top part of the shoulder off here. One, two. Now you notice that with this shoulder, we took more of it off when we're doing the roast than we did the steaks. There'll be less hocks if you get roast instead of steaks. So on these shoulder roasts, what we typically do is try to trim them down a little bit to about a 3-pound roast. So you can see how we do that here to make a nice shoulder roast out of it. Nothing goes to waste. The rest of it goes into your sausage, of course. Look at that beautiful shoulder roast coming right up there. Now these things are what people would call, you could also call them a Boston butt or a picnic butt, depending on which part of the shoulder it came from. We just call them shoulder roasts and don't differentiate it in this case. If you did want a Boston butt, those are typically left a lot bigger, about 10 pounds to 12 pounds each. We find that most people find the 3-pound roast a bit more useful. Okay, we're back on the second half here, fixing to take the chops out. Or in this case, we're going to do the boneless pork loin. Okay, here's our pork belly with the ribs in it. In this case, since we're doing the boneless pork loin, we'll peel the bones out of here. Okay, you'll notice here that we're peeling the fat off of this loin. Sometimes people want us to save the fat if there's any left. A lot of the fat that is here will need to be used in the sausage. The hogs that we sell are just a really good body style, so there's not a lot of extra fat left. So most of it goes into the sausage, and sometimes all of it goes into the sausage, depending on what cuts you request. There's not enough fat left over to save. But in this case, you can see us trimming it off, and then once we're ready to grind the sausage, we can evaluate whether we need to use it in the sausage or save it back to be rendered into lard. Okay, we're taking the ribs out over here again, like we were on the other half. All right, we're going to go ahead and debone this loin section here. First thing we do is take out the inner tenderloin. A lot of places just call this tenderloin. Just to avoid confusion, we call it the inner tenderloin, and in a beef, it would be called the fillet. Okay, we've pretty much got this loin peeled away from the bone here. All right, there's our boneless pork loin. Now here, out of this backbone, that's where we get our baby back ribs. We're going to go ahead and slice those out for you now. And there's our baby back ribs. Okay, our favorite way of slicing our pork loin is in our Treef slicer here. So let's go ahead and see it come on through. All right, there we have our sliced pork loin. Let me get a look at it from this side. Beautiful. Okay, on this ham that's left, the ham that's left, we're going to go ahead and just cut it down to size and debone it to put it into sausage. Hams tend to be leaner, and that means we can use up all the trim, fat trim, to make even more sausage. Okay, we've got this whole pork belly now that we're going to slice. There it is, the bacon has been sliced. We're going to see if we can put this sliced bacon in. Looks like it's not quite fitting in the silhouette, but hey, it gives you the idea anyways. Okay, we're going to try to slice this jowl bacon. Here, I've tried to fit this all in one frame here. This is both halves of this hog. We'll start over here on this side. What you see here is this ham that's been boned out that will become a part of the deboned meat there for sausage. And then over here, we weren't able to fit it in the silhouette, but that's our spare ribs. And then the baby back ribs there in the center. Moving down to the boneless pork loin, slice it a 1/2 inch. Then there's your pork belly sliced into bacon. Moving towards the shoulder, we got shoulder roast here. It looks like this one made 5 shoulder roasts out of that half. And then the jowl bacon from the jowl. Pull out on that hog, you see the boneless meat right up there in the top left corner, and then the whatever bones were left are right here. So that's how much waste there would be from this hog. Now moving on to the other half of the hog here, Starting at the rear, again, we see this is ham that's been sliced to be sliced and cured. We're going to cure it here in a minute. And then moving in towards the front there, you see the bone-in pork chops and the spare ribs there, and then the pork belly sliced into bacon. And then moving ahead towards the front, you see the sliced pork shoulder as pork steaks and the jowl sliced as jowl bacon. And here you can see the bones that are left from this half of the hog, as well as the deboned meat that will be used for sausage, and then the fat. You can see the fat there, this is the leaf fat that we'll need to put into the sausage to make it to where it's not too lean. So there probably won't be a lot of leftover fat from this hog, but that gives you a little visual there of what you could get out of a whole hog. Okay, we have finished processing this hog, other than we need to grind the sausage yet. So what we're going to do at this point is go and get a weight on each of the type of cuts. So starting off with the sliced ham. Okay, the sliced ham made 12 pieces with a weight of 12.75 pounds. Next we're going to weigh the bone-in chops. Looks like there's 34 of those, and they weigh in at 18 pounds. All right, next we're going to get the spare ribs here. Let's see what we got as far as spare ribs. These are cut as half rack of ribs. During this weighing process, what we're going to do is actually weigh everything from both halves that was the same. So both halves had spare ribs, so go ahead and bring those spare ribs over. And we'll get the weight here. The first half spare ribs were at 4.3, and then with all the spare ribs together, made 8.5 pounds. All right, next we have our sliced pork shoulder. We only did that on one half of the hog, so we're going to see what this weighed. It made 18 slices, and those weighed in at 15.85 pounds. All right, so we've got the bacon left here to weigh. The first half weighed 9.9 pounds. We're going to go ahead and add the second half to this. All the sliced bacon from this hog came out to be 21.1 pounds. Okay, what we've got left is our jowl bacon. We're going to get it and weigh it. From the first half of this hog made 2.5 pounds, and then we're adding the other half. So the whole hog's jowl bacon came out to be 5.25 pounds. Okay, we're moving to the other half where we did pork shoulder roast. Let's get a weight on those. We had a total of 5 shoulder roasts from that half, and those weighed in at 16.1 pounds. Okay, we're going to take the boneless pork loin next. Let's get a weight on that. If we counted right, we had 36 boneless pork loin slices out of here, and that weighed in at 12.5 pounds. Okay, we've got the inner tenderloin. We want to get a weight on that. Also called the tenderloin, and it is a really tender piece of meat. Okay, this inner tenderloin weighs in at 1.1 pounds. Okay, we've still got the baby back here. We can't forget it. There wasn't enough room in the silhouette to put it, so we have it sitting outside here. Let's get a weight on the baby back ribs. The reason there's only one of these is because the other half of the hog was done as bone-in chops, and the curved bone in your bone-in chop is the same bone that's in the baby back ribs. So this thing weighs in at 2.55 pounds. All right, we're going to get a weight on these bones that are left. All right, the weight on the bones from the first half was 7.45. We're going to add the bones from the second half of the hog here. See if we can fit them all on here. Yep, they're all on there. The bones from both halves of the hog weighed 17.1 pounds. Typically people don't want those bones, and so we make them into compost. If you want them from your hog, they make some great soup. Okay, we've got the liver here. We typically slice it. If you were to get the whole liver, it would weigh around 3.4 pounds. Okay, here we've got the heart. We can package it whole for you, or most commonly it just gets ground into the sausage, but it weighs around 0.75 pounds. Okay, now we're going to get the deboned meat and get ready to grind this into sausage. From this first half of this hog, we've ended up with 25.25 pounds of deboned meat. There'll be even more weight on the other side because we put the ham into sausage. All right, we're cutting this ham down to size here so we can so it runs through the grinder. because of how lean this sausage is going to be, because of that ham being fairly lean, we're going to need to actually use up all the fat from this hog, including the leaf fat, to get the sausage to be the right fat ratio. Okay, we got all the deboned meat from both sides together now, and it comes to a total of 65.75 pounds of deboned meat. That includes the leaf fat and everything that we need to get the fat ratio right on the sausage. So we have a formula based on the amount of meat that it produced, that we figure out how much seasoning we're going to need. So in this case, we know we need to add 1.31 pounds of seasoning to the meat. There we go, 1.3. There you can see those beautiful sausage seasonings. In this case, we're doing extra sage, so we're going to add some sage to the seasoning. So here's our sage, adding sage. Now, if somebody requests medium or hot sausage, we add this ground cayenne pepper. But in this case, we're not going to add any because it's supposed to be mild sausage with extra sage. Okay, we're going to put this deboned meat right here into the grinder. Add these sausage seasonings. We do a first grind. And you'll see there's more seasonings and extra fat, some lean areas. So this is the first grind. And once we do the second grind, it'll mix it all even better and it'll have a nice consistent look. All right, there's our first grind. We've done that first grind. We're going to put it right back up in the hopper. And it will get mixed again and ground to a nice consistency on the second grind. The first part that comes out, we'll put it back in to make sure that it gets ground twice as well. And then now you have a nice consistent look coming out. Okay, we're finishing up our second grind here. Okay, we are ready to stuff our sausage. We stuff our sausage into chubs with this stuffer and chub machine. Okay, we're getting that sausage stuffed. Okay, we've moved into the packaging phase here. Wrapping it up in bone guard as needed. And this thing runs it on through here. And vacuum seals everything. It moves on down the line, comes off the end here, vacuum sealed, ready for labeling. Here's some pork shoulder. Now it's packaged and labeled and ready to go. Okay, I wanted to explain how we do these sliced and cured ham. So here's a ham slice. We lay it in the packer. And we have a liquid curing brine that we add to that. And then over the next day or two, as it freezes, this liquid curing brine absorbs into the meat and cures your meat. It makes it a lot faster process than the traditional curing, like a whole ham, where it takes 3 to 4 months to do. So this is a quick cure. Okay, there's that sliced and cured ham. You can see it vacuum packed in the liquid. We like to do 2 bone-in pork chops per pack. It fits in our package well, and it's convenient for people to open up 2 slices per pack. Now we're packaging the pork belly that we slice as bacon. Do the sugar cure the same way on it. If you want your bacon without nitrates, you can do a nitrate-free version of this cure. If you want it nitrate-free and sugar-free, you're probably going to be better off just having it done as plain bacon and seasoning it yourself. My experience is if you have a mindset towards more healthy things and you go that route, it won't really taste like bacon as you think of bacon, but it's pretty amazing stuff. If you salt and pepper it and fry it, it's really delicious. We have got this hog, the sausage stuffed, all the bacon sliced and packed and cured, and I thought we had ground the heart, but obviously we didn't. It got packed instead. We got our liver here. So we're just going to weigh this now at the very end and see what our total take-home weight was. Here's our scales. We have it tiered to make it, because we don't want to weigh the crate. So we've zeroed it out. So it actually takes off 4.70 pounds for each of these crates. So the first crate here weighs 69.75 pounds. All right, we'll stick that off to the side here. Do the next one here. This one's got the liver and heart and all the other goodies in it. This one here weighs in at 65.7 pounds. And here's the sausage. It made 65 pounds of sausage. And we'll stack this together here. Did you notice that the finished sausage weight was slightly less than the combined amount of the deboned meat and the spices? This is because sometimes a little bit of the meat might stay in the grinder throat or the sausage stuffer. Altogether, this is what it yielded. You saw the whole process. If this was your hog, you'd be taking home around 200 pounds. Now, if you're doing the math, you'll notice that the finished weight is almost as much as the combined weight of both halves when they still had the bone in. This is because the curing liquid on the bacon and the hams adds to the weight, as well as a very slight increase from the weight of the packages. Now keep in mind that every hog is going to be slightly different, and depending on the cuts you get, if you do a lot of boneless cuts, then that means you're leaving more bones with us. So that can affect your yield. But this will give you a really good idea of what you can expect out of one of our 300-pound corn-fed meat hogs. Let's meet up. So, if you're needing to fill your freezer with fresh pork, look no further. Get in touch today. You can call us or text us at 606-722-0211. For more information, visit our website at showalterscountrymeats.com or click the website link in the description box below. Let's meet up.